Welcome to an all-new episode of the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. I'm Brian Ciano. Thank you so much for joining us. We take our weekly look at everything going on in the world of combat sports. We have a loaded show for you, plenty to talk about in both the PFL and the BKFC. We have cards from last week for both of them and cards this week that we have to preview as well. So we got recaps, we got previews, and we got some interviews. We're going to be talking on the show next segment to PFL middleweight Fabian Edwards, who's going to be a big part of that semifinal card tonight on ESPN late night. Make sure you're watching that out in Chicago. We'll get his thoughts as he gets ready to do battle with Josh Silveira. Later on, we'll also catch up with BKFC heavyweight Anthony Garrett, who, of course, had a great win this past weekend for the BKFC down in Tejas, in the Lone Star State. The first time the BKFC was in Texas. We had some changes to the top of the card. Some big surprises, though, and a lot of great action. That included Anthony Garrett with another first-round TKO. A little bit longer this time, but still another great performance. Decided to give us a little extra show this time instead of knocking him out in 12 and 16 seconds. Decided, let's go over a minute. Let's give him a little something to watch this time. But we'll talk to both those guys later on the show, as well as previewing the card tonight for the PFL in the semifinals in Chicago that Fabian Edwards will be part of. We will recap the BKFC down in Texas and talk about everything that happened on that card, as well as preview BKFC Birmingham this weekend. There's going to be a UK title on the line there, all coming up later on the show. But let's get right into it. So much to talk about. Let's recap these PFL semifinals we just saw last weekend, June 20th, out there in Wichita. It was on ESPN, and we got to see plenty of action in both the lightweights, the women's flyweights, and, of course, also bantamweights. So lots of fights factoring into these tournaments. Let's get into it right now. Starting off with the headline of the lightweight semifinal between Gadzhi Rabadanov versus Kevin Lee. We talked to Lee last week, jumping into this tournament in the semifinals, 32-year-old from Michigan. The former UFC fighter with 9 wins by submission, 8 by decision coming into that fight, and replacing J.J. Wilson against Rabadanov, who's one of the favorites, the 31-year-old Russian, former Bellator and PFL fighter, who was on an 11-fight win streak and beat Mark Diaksy by first round TKO in the first round of this. We thought Rabadanov would get the win. We said third round, didn't take that long. First round TKO, 2 minutes and 37 seconds into it. Rabadanov was doing a great job, caught Lee early, 40 seconds in. Lee was trying to get the leg to survive, get in the way. Later on, he drops him again. A minute 20 into the fight, Lee scrambles again. Rabadanov just started picking him apart left and right on the feet, just finding out where he wanted to get in there and impose his will. And he did it again with the combo against the cage halfway through the fight. Lee goes down, covering up his face. Rabadanov jumps on him, but doesn't even have to throw too many more punches before the ref gets in there. And Rabadanov wins the fight to move on to the finals. 26-4-2 now in his career, with 10 of those by KO, TKO, including this one. Lee now falls to 20-9 in his MMA career. Rabadanov talked about how happy he was for beating a known guy like Kevin Lee, but he's only focused on himself in the finals. Doesn't matter who his opponent is. He's going to do what he does, and he feels great going into it. Looking forward to seeing that finals. We'll talk about his opponent coming up later. Women's flyweight semifinal. That was between Liz Carmouche and Alora Donna. Donna, the 26-year-old from Brazil, who was unbeaten coming into that fight, but it was her first fight in a major promotion when she started in the PFL tournament, beating Diana Asaravga by first-round submission, a neck crank. So that was a great performance by Donna against Asaragova. Going now against the Gorilla Carmouche, the 41-year-old from Cali, the wrestler, grappler, former Bellator title holder, former UFC, Bellator, and PFL fighter, and who would beat Alara Johanni by first-round TKO in the first-round matchup for her. We thought Carmouche would get the TKO by ground and pound. She beats Donna, but it goes a distance. A unanimous decision, 30-27 on all 3 cards. I agree with that decision. That's how I had it on my cards. I gave Carmouche every round. It was tight, some of them. I thought early on maybe you could have given it to Donna, but I thought Carmouche was doing her thing, beating her up on the feet, doing a good job keeping Donna from getting the takedowns that she wanted to take it to the ground. I thought that she had some good takedowns herself at times and body control there, taking her to the mat, controlling her body, throwing the ground and pound. She did a good job throughout that fight, and she gets the 30-27 victory. She's now 24-8. Donna now 8-1 with her first loss being this fight. Carmouche gave respect to Donna after the fight, talked how tough she is, but she's the one moving on and in the finals of this tournament. We also had a lightweight showcase fight between Mansour Barnoui and Archie Colgan. This was a fight that was supposed to happen last month over there in France. That card got canceled. It got moved here, and these guys got informed that there was going to be a title eliminator for the chance to face Usman Nurmagomedov. It was supposed to be, like we said, headliner in France. Now we get it kind of in the middle card here, out there in Wichita. The Frenchman, a.k.a. Tarzan, 32 years old, 2-2 in Bellator, 1-1-0 in the PFL, had won back-to-back wins over Alfie Davis, who was in the tournament here, and Yaki. He lost to J.J. Wilson and Brett Primus in 2023, so he's familiar with a lot of these names in this tournament that we saw in the lightweight division, going against King Colgan, 29-year-old from Colorado, who's a wrestler and had 8 wins in Bellator, but hadn't fought a lot of big names. So we weren't sure who was going to win this fight. It ends up being Colgan. He beats the Frenchman by unanimous decision, 30-27 on all 3 cards. I thought that was fair and accurate. I gave Colgan 10-9 every round. I thought he was doing a great job looking for his spots. He was stalking him in the first round there, starting to land some hard rights and doing his job to control Bonui. Bonui was trying to take it to him in the second, third round, but Colgan, again, was controlling things, getting some takedowns, throwing some hammer fists, doing ground and pound throughout, did what he needs to do, got the points, and now he moves to 12-0. Bonui is now 22-7. And Colgan talked about the undefeated opponent now he gets after this win, saying that, you know, he was at his chance. All respect to him, but now it's my turn. He's going to beat the champ. He's going to go fight the champ, and someone's always got to go. So we look forward to seeing that fight whenever it is announced. He also had a bantamweight semi-fight between Marcelo Alves and Jake Hadley. Alves, 25-year-old Brazilian, 1-1 in Bellator before coming over the PFL and won a split decision over Leandro Higo in a tight fight, going against Hadley, the 28-year-old English fighter who was coming off losses in 3 of 4 fights in the UFC at the end of that run for him, all by decision before he beat Matthias Matos by third-round submission with a Scottish twister. Not the kind of submission you see every day, but he was coming into this fight. We thought Alves would get the TKO against him. He ends up getting a unanimous decision, 30-26 on all 3 judges' scorecards. I had 30-27. I don't know where you really get a 10-8 round. I don't think there was any round where Alves was just completely dominating the action and, you know, Hadley was just basically surviving. I thought it was Alves just doing his thing, and it was his world, and Hadley was just living in it. But I was giving it 30-27 each round with 10-9. Alves is now 14-4. Hadley now 12-5. The other lightweight semifinal, Brent Primus versus Alfie Davis. Davis, the 33-year-old Englishman, was a longtime Bellator fighter, got 8-1 in that promotion before coming over to the PFL. Beat Clay Collard by first round TKO with a spinning back elbow and punches in the opening round of the tournament. Brent Primus, the 40-year-old American, a longtime Bellator fighter and PFL fighter, had beat Vinicius Sensi by third round submission rear naked choke. Of course, Sensi was a fight week change for Primus. He got thrown in there and got overmatched by Primus. We thought Primus would get a second round submission and win this fight. Ends up Davis gets Primus by unanimous decision, 29-28 on all 3 judges' scorecards. That is accurate for me. I thought Primus took the first round. I thought Davis took the second and third. Primus, of course, was just trying to do what he did and get into the ground. Was trying to pull guard a bunch of times in that fight, and it worked in the first round. And, you know, Davis got taken down, but in the second and third, he was much more attuned to that, avoiding that, jumping in the guard, keeping on the feet, picking Primus apart and beating him up. I thought he did a great job, even getting a little cocky at times, doing some crazy things like some front axe kicks and spinning heel kicks to kind of taunt Primus towards the end of some rounds. Davis is now 19-5, 10 of those by decision. Primus now 16-5 in his career, and Davis will face Rabadanov lightweight finals. Going to be an interesting striking battle between those two. Bantamweight semifinal between Wetzel and Gutierrez. Both these guys were thrown in late into this tournament. This was the biggest fights that they had in the biggest promotions. Interesting that Wetzel came in there. He had that long hair before. Shades it for this fight to try to make weight. Completely bald. Gutierrez had, of course, beat Francesco Nuzzi by first-round submission. Wetzel beat Kasim Kasimov by unanimous decision. We thought Gutierrez might get the decision, take it to a ground fight. Instead, it was Wetzel by unanimous decision, 30-27 on all 3 cards. All 3 was mostly Wetzel getting Gutierrez on his back stage and working him over from top position. He now goes to 12-2, 7 by decision. Gutierrez now 11-4, and Wetzel will face Alves in the bantamweight finals. And then the last fight to talk about, Jenna Bishop, Shakalakova. Of course, Shakalova was the upset, the Ukrainian fighter getting in there after being Juliana Velasquez. Bishop had kind of a thing, just worn down kind of Watanabe. We thought Bishop would get the decision. She gets the second round choke submission 2 minutes and 7 seconds in. So she moves on now, and she gets to go against the Gorilla in the finals.
As we know, it's just we enter every year and it's, is this the Ravens' time? Is this Lamar Jackson's turn? Can they get past the Chiefs and all of these other, stalwarts of the AFC? But it's always really about Kansas City when we're talking Baltimore.
This potentially, Adam, as I send it back to you, potentially is a game changer in that you get a very talented quarter at a discount price
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
We are seeing unbelievable temperature surges over the past couple days. So I wanted to ask you this question to let the people know, like, how do we account for that in our handicapping? Like, two good pitchers on the mound, but you look at a place like Wrigley Field, let's just say, 20-mile-an-hour winds blowing out, 90-plus degree temperatures. Is it almost like you say to yourself, you just have to fade the environment and not worry about the pitchers, because if we're hitting fly balls, they're going yard?
Pro Baseball Today. Only on SportsGrid.
It was the first time, I think, in Dodgers history that the ballpark was full in the first inning. Everybody was there to see Shohei Ohtani throw his first pitch as a Dodger, and I had mixed emotions about this for a few reasons. Number one, it was a reminder of, wow, this is so crazy, right? You're watching him hit 98, 99, even 100 on the radar gun, going, this guy's not human. Nobody should be able to be this good of a hitter or this good of a pitcher.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
I can't even believe I'm saying pitcher's battle and using the words Patrick Corbin. But can I tell you, Scotty, he's a different guy. He's a totally different guy with the Rangers than we've seen.
I say this all the time. You know, don't worry about the first 5 innings. Like, don't even watch the first 5 innings in Texas Ranger games. Because for whatever reason, there's a ton of runs scored in the first 5, and then it just stops. It just stops.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid, and we have a loaded card once again for these semifinals coming up tonight out there in Chicago. Deep dish pizza and fights. We're going to have all that tonight with the PFL, and one of the guys going to be headlining that, of course, is Fabian Edwards. Had an incredible win in the quarterfinals, smashing his way to victory, and now looks to do the same here in the semifinals. We bring him on now. Fabian, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it. You've obviously gone through the hells of camp, in a short camp, obviously, with the back-to-back fights, the way the tournament goes, right into things this week for the fight week. How are you feeling in the last moments here before you get ready to go in there and do battle and try to make these finals?
I feel good. I feel good. I felt like doing back-to-back camps has really benefited me. I've just kind of stayed in shape for these last 7 weeks. So I'm feeling good. I'm in Chicago, enjoying the weather, and yeah, I just can't wait.
And obviously, that's something that, you've been working towards, all the things that you've been working throughout your career. You've had title fights, of course, before this tournament that you got into. But, you talked about on social media how it's been a long journey for you. It's 16 years of, you think back to when you were, scrapping in the park, and, how you turned that into a career and how far you've come right now, going at this point into these semifinals. Talk about that journey for us.
Yeah, it's just, like I said, it's been a long journey. I've only been fighting for 10 years, but I've pretty much been fighting my whole life. I never thought as a kid that I'd be doing this as a professional and inspiring people, so I'm grateful for the position I'm in. I feel like I've been blessed and that's it. I still feel like I've got a good eight more years left in this sport or so, and I'm just enjoying the journey, honestly. I'm with my team in Chicago, about to fight and make it to the final, and yeah, just a lot of gratitude. I'm just enjoying the moment.
Now, of course, that fight team includes your brother Leon. I'm sure he was right there with you, scrapping those days. How you guys have both turned this into something where it's giving you, a lot of fame and notoriety and a lot of respect around the world. But you fought for him and with him earlier in your career and in your life. And now, so you're talking about how a big part of why you fight and why you do this now isn't for you, isn't for him, but for your kids. And you posted pictures of them. And training with them, bringing them to the gym, getting them involved. How is that giving you a different perspective at this point in your life?
I think it just puts, like, it makes you realize why you're doing it, and I'm not doing this for just to be known or anything. It's all about providing for myself and my family, you know what I mean, and achieving what I know I can achieve. I put a lot of hours in this, so that's what it's about, providing for myself, my family, and leaving a good legacy. And that's what I'm working towards,
And we see you working hard for it. We see even the improvement just from fight to fight. I mean, those Johnny Eblen fights. They seemed like obviously you came on at the end. You had some great strikes towards the end. It seemed like it was a little slow to start though against Impa in the quarterfinals. That was completely different. You came out right away, got right into the action, throwing those elbows. Maybe something that he hadn't seen before. Obviously, going through all the years of PFL where elbows weren't allowed, you made sure to take advantage of that right away and pointed that out in the post-fight interview. Was that a point for you to make sure when you got into this tournament and you started with that first fight against Impa to get off, quickly to get started and show what you can do right away and not, go too much of the feeling out process?
Yeah, it was that. I just know what I can do. When I'm where I should be, I just know what I can do, and that's what it was about. It was about going out there and letting Impa and letting the world and letting PFL knows what I'm on. It's that simple. It's that simple. I just feel like I'm a level above these guys. Honestly, my training camp's been good. I'm feeling good, and on Friday I do expect a dominant performance.
Well, speaking of, showing what you can do, it's unlike some of these guys that have come into these tournaments for the PFL this season and in past seasons. We've seen you before. We've known, you've been to almost all the way to the top of the mountain, fighting for titles in Bellator and, a high-level organization against some of the best fighters in the world. What has that transition been like for you to go from Bellator to the PFL and, to go from where you're doing training camp for each fight and you're focusing on one guy maybe 3 to 6 months, or maybe two, 3 times a year you fight 3 fights in, a couple months here and just constantly training and being ready for the next guy in this tournament format that PFL put into place this year?
I just feel like overall I'm skilled, so to transition from one guy to the next guy, like Josh is completely different to Impa, but because overall my skill set's good, I find it pretty easy to switch from one to the next, and my mindset for this whole tournament is one fight at a time, and I'm just focusing on myself because I just believe as long as I'm the best version of myself, whoever I'm fighting, I'm going to beat them. So that's what I'm focused on, just being a better version than what I was 6-7 weeks ago.
And we look forward to seeing that version, all the work that you put in to get even better at this point. You talk about Severa, how he's different. What are you looking for in this fight for him? What do you see from him in his previous fights? Obviously, he got the win in the quarterfinals, getting past Shipman, but had lost 3 or 4 before that. What have you looked at the tape for him that you think works well for you and your fight style?
I just think I want it more. I feel like my fight IQ is better than his. I feel like I'm sharper than him. Just my decision making and all of that. If I look at him as a fighter, I just think his biggest attribute is that he takes a good shot, and that's honestly it. He takes a good shot in his big game, but overall, skill for skill, I believe I'm the better man. And if we need to go into a dogfight, I believe that I'm a bigger dog than him. You know what I mean? But I don't think the fight will get to that point. But yeah, I just think skill for skill, I'm better than him.
Well, we can't wait to see if you put that to use here and show us that, of course, in this fight. We're looking forward to that in Chicago on ESPN. People make sure they check it out. Obviously, if you win this fight, you're going to be you don't want to look ahead, as you said. You can focus on your opponent, but you got Dalton Ross and Aaron Jeffrey facing off as well in this card in the other semifinal. And of course, if you win this tournament, then you possibly get a third shot at Johnny Eblen if he holds it into his belt in South Africa. What are you looking for in that other semifinal, and how would a fight be different against Eblen the third time?
Yeah, you know what? They're all the same. They're all the same. I think Aaron or Dalton, pretty much similar fighters. So whoever that will be facing after this fight, it'd be similar preparation. So I'm ready.
Fabian Edwards, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck there in the cage tonight as we get to watch you in Chicago on ESPN, 10:30 Eastern. Main card starts. Everyone, make sure you check it out. Semifinals for the PFL tonight on ESPN.
Yeah, thank you.
What do you make of this price tag here, reportedly, of $1.7 billion for a club that right now technically doesn't even have a home ballpark.
We don't see a lot of teams sold in Major League Baseball. I mean, if you go back to 2020, Steve Cohen bought the New York Mets for $2.4 billion. The only team sold since then was the Orioles last year, also for around $1.7 billion.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go with Cam Young at 30-1. I think it's a really nice course for him at the Rocket Mortgage in Detroit, Michigan for him. Wyndham Clark at 36-1. And I also like Alex Noren at 60-1.
My Morency drunken Brett dart toss golf pick, which does win like 2-3 times a year, guys. Some insanely enough. But I'm going to say Matt Fitzpatrick.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
I do believe that SJ now is the #1 player in the world. The things that he can do from the point of attack, offensively and defensively, his ability to drive downhill and score at all three levels. And the thing I like most about this young man at 26, he's so humble. He's so humble. And that speaks to the whole culture of OKC that Sam Presti and Mark Daigneault has built. Humble team, folks.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Thanks so much to the assassin Fabian Edwards for joining us as he gets ready to take on Josh Rivera tonight in the semifinals for the PFL. Let's talk about that card now, getting some picks here before we move on to our next organization and go right into what we were seeing in Chicago tonight, June 27th, of course, 10:30 Eastern is the main card on ESPN, ESPN Plus. You, of course, have the prelim card on ESPN Plus before that, where there's some big fights there that we'll hopefully get to as well. Middleweight semifinal, Fabian Edwards, Josh Rivera. Silvera, the 32-year-old out of Florida, lost 3 of 4 before the tournament, dropped in weight to get down to this middleweight weight class. 14-4 for his career, beat Mike Shipman by unanimous decision in the quarterfinals. Now going against Fabian Edwards, the 32-year-old Brit, the assassin, 14-4, 9-3 in Bellator before moving over to the PFL. Has wins over guys like Lyoto Machida and Gegard Mousasi. Beat Impa Kasanganay by second round TKO to get here into the semifinals. That was a big thing for me, that Edwards fight against Impa. That was the quickest start we've seen from him in a while. Those Johnny Edwin fights, he got off very slow. Never really got to his style until the end of the fight. It was too late. Got off quick, threw some elbows. I like Edwards by decision in this fight. Light heavyweight semifinal. Phil Davis versus Sullivan Cauley. Cauley, the 20-year-old American, 7-1 in his career. All of his pro fights were in Bellator before the PFL and last fought in August of 2023 before this tournament. Beat Alex Polizzi with elbows in the first round in the quarters. Davis, the 40-year-old American, 25-7 for his career with 1 no contest. Former UFC and Bellator fighter, but former Bellator champion, Division I wrestler. Wins over huge names throughout his career. Beat Rob Wilkinson by second round TKO, ground and pound. That was a little surprising for me. Most of the wins for Phil Davis over the years have been by decision. At this age, I thought he ground out another win. He was more aggressive, throwing some great stuff, throwing some great strikes. I think he gets the win here again and moves to the finals, but I'm going to go back to decision. That's what he's been known for throughout his career. I think he does it here. Bantamweight showcase fight. Sergio Pettis versus Rafion Stotts. Stotts, a 36-year-old American, 21-2 for his MMA career, 12 of those by decision. Former Bellator title holder, where he was 8-1 in that organization. So on a 2-fight win streak and 13-2 in the last 8 years. Pettis, the 31-year-old American, younger brother of Anthony Pettis, 23-7 for his career. That's right. He's got 30 professional fights, only 31 years old. 15 of those wins are by decision. Former UFC and Bellator fighter. He held the title in Bellator and has lost 3 in a row now, though, coming into this fight. So where is he at? Where's his, I would lean toward Pettis, except for those couple losses in a row. Now, they're against some of the top names in the game, but still, when you just got that going through your head, when you're on that kind of a snide, going against a guy who's been so hot the last 8 years, and Stotts, I'm going to roll with Stotts winning that fight. Middleweight semifinal fight between Dalton Rosta and Aaron Jeffrey. We talked about that with Fabian Edwards. Ross, the 29-year-old American, is 10-1 in his career, 9-1 of that in Bellator before his fight against Sadabu Sai, where he got the Darce choke by second round. Jeffrey is a 32-year-old Canadian, 16-5 in his career, 4-2 with Bellator before making the switch over to PFL. He beat Ramazanov by split decision in his first-round matchup. You know, it's tough. Both these guys have their styles. Ross, obviously, I think wants to grab it down. Jeffrey, I think, wants to keep it on the feet. I go with Ross by TKO. Light heavyweight semifinal, Antonio Carlos Jr. versus Simeon Powell. Carlos Jr., 35-year-old from Brazil, is 17-6 in his career. 12 of those wins by submission. The former UFC fighter beat Carl Moore by split decision in the first round of the tournament, going against Powell, the 26-year-old English fighter who now trains out of Ireland. He's 11-1 in his career with 5 of those by KO TKO. Former Bellator fighter beat Albrechtsen by punches and elbows in the second round. Powell's going to be taller. It's going to be longer. I think that's going to be key against a guy like Carlos Jr. who wants to take him down. Those extra, half second there to avoid the takedowns, avoid getting on his back, and be able to try to pick apart his opponent. I'm going to roll with Powell by decision in this one. I think he does enough to get rid of some of those takedowns or survive the ones that he does get caught on, and is able to do some good strikes otherwise to take some rounds. Might even be a split decision or a tight one, or maybe a 29-28. Then we get to the prelim card. As you mentioned, there's still some fights here we got to talk about because that's where all the heavyweights are. All the biggest boys are down there swinging on the prelims, 8:30 Eastern on ESPN+. You have a heavyweight semifinal between Valentin Moldavsky and Alexander Romanov. Romanov, the 34-year-old from Moldova that trains in the U.S., 19-3 in his career, 11 wins by submission, former UFC fighter, beat Tim Johnson by standing guillotine in the first round in his opening matchup of the tournament against Moldavsky. The 33-year-old Ukrainian who trains in Russia, 14-4, 9 of those wins by decision, former Bellator champion, beat Bilosteny by unanimous decision to get here. I'm going to roll with Moldavsky. I think that Romanov is very good. I think either of these guys would have a good shot at winning this tournament, but Moldavsky has that championship pedigree. I think Romanov kind of got an easier matchup with Johnson, who was on a long losing streak in that first part of the tournament. Then, also the other heavyweight semifinal, Oleg Popov versus Rodrigo Nascimento. Nascimento, the 32-year-old Brazilian, 12-3 of his career, 6 of those by submission, former UFC fighter, beat Babley by split decision. Babley was just too small for this division. Popov, the 33-year-old Russian, 20-2, 9 of those KO by TKO. Lost a gold star for the title last year, beat Carl Williams by split decision in the quarters. Wasn't his best performance. I think it's better in this one and takes the win by decision.
We all know a night out at the club in Vegas can get a little bit pricey, but I've got a tip that can save you a cover fee at some of the hottest nightclubs. All you have to do is sign up online for free with a credible guest list service. Then, just show up before 10:30 and check right in. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
No way that I'm betting on the Cleveland Cavaliers for any reason whatsoever.
No.
Ever. Like, when they had LeBron James, it was a different story. I think Spider's great. He's no LeBron. I don't see him carrying them to a title. And I don't believe in the Knicks at all. The Knicks never get it done.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Kevin Durant, at the age of 36 years old, after 17 seasons that he has played in the NBA DRS, is now on his way to H-Town.
I don't think it's a great move. I wanted him to go to a ready-made championship team full of a veteran roster and see if he can ring chase that way. Not to go to an organization on the come-up that if you just stay the course, and also, what better blueprint do we have than just staying the course than OKC, right?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of
15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. So there's going to be some great fights tonight for the PFL, closing out the round of the semifinals. Make sure you check that out tonight on ESPN. Looking forward to seeing those three weight divisions, find out who's going to move on to the finals, and we'll see all that later this summer. Going to be awesome and some great fights for the PFL throughout this tournament. But there are also some great fights for the BKFC. So let's move on and talk about those. Down in Texas this past weekend, June 21st in Fort Worth, the BKFC held their first ever card in Texas, BKFC 76. And it was headlined by a lightweight title fight, not the one we were expecting. It was supposed to be, of course, Tenaglia and Soto rematching their fight that we saw in Spain where Tenaglia took the title. That kind of fight week changed. Unfortunately, Tenaglia had some visa issues allegedly, and because of that was taken out of the fight. But instead, we were given an interim lightweight title fight. They still brought the belt. Even with Soto there, they said, all right, we're just going to put somebody else in, and you guys are going to fight for a title. And we could always clean that up later on when we get Franco available to fight. So because that, we get Ben Bonner, the 34-year-old from the UK, had all his fights end by stoppage and was on a 2-fight win streak for the BKFC over in the UK where he put all his fights. He jumps over the pond to fight Tony Soto, of course, the 37-year-old from South Carolina, who had won his first 6 fights in the BKFC before losing to Tenaglia in Spain last year. I'm very surprised. I thought Soto was going to win this fight. I thought he was going to get TKO. No offense to Bonner, but I thought, okay, you did some good fights over in the UK version. You haven't fought the best of the best over here in the US overall. And now you got to come here short notice, jump into this mix and fight in Texas. But he does it. Now he gets in there and on 8 days' notice beats Tony Soto by unanimous decision, 49-44, 47-46, 48-45. So obviously you can see the judges were all not on the same page per se. I think it should have been 47-46. Could have been 48-45 possibly. But I thought that, obviously rounds 1 and 2 went to Bonner. Came in there. Tony Soto coming forward, just throwing kind of reckless and trying to overwhelm his opponent. Gets clipped a couple times. Got clipped in the first and went down. Got clipped in the second and went down again. That time he was not very happy. It looked like he might have been to the back of the head. When I was watching it and looked on the replays as well, Chris Lights Out Lido pointed that out as well, that maybe could have been back of the head, but they don't call it that. Instead, they call it another knockdown. So you got back-to-back 10-8 rounds for Ben Bonner to put him up 2016. Rounds 3, 4, 5. I gave those to Tony Soto, 10-9. I thought that he, again, was coming forward, but was doing a better job to, slip some of those strikes that Bonner was landing early. I thought Bonner slowed down a little bit, that maybe he might have punched himself out a little bit more in the first 2 rounds. Still had some good shots throughout those last 3 rounds, so it wasn't like he had nothing in the tank, but obviously was just not as fast and as crisp. So I thought maybe Soto can come back in this. Maybe he can overwhelm him, but he got 3 rounds, so that's 3 points ahead of Bonner. Problem is Bonner had those 2 knockdowns that had put him 4 points ahead. So he comes through with, on my card, 47-46 Bonner victory to win that. Bonner is now 4-1 the BKFC, the new interim lightweight title holder. Soto now 6-2 and has lost his last 2 fights. And Bonner gave his thoughts as he was walking through the hallways back to the locker rooms after the fight.
Listen, I've told you, man. It was written in the stars at 8 days' notice. I flew here because I knew I'm the baddest man.
He also talked about how tough Soto was and thanked Dave Feldman and Nate Shook for believing in him and giving him the chance to fight for that title. And now he holds that, the interim lightweight title holder in the BKFC. We'll see what is next for Ben Bonner. If it is Tenaglia, may do that over in Europe. Match up there, whether it be in the UK, Spain, or whatever else they are opening over in Europe. Or if we do that here, we will see. You also had at heavyweight, Andrei Arlovsky versus Josh Cuddly Bear Copeland. Arlovsky, the pit bull, the 46-year-old Belarusian fighter who's now been in the U.S. for a long time, fought in the UFC for a long time, was making his BKFC debut, a former UFC champion, against Josh Cuddly Bear Copeland, the 42-year-old from Colorado, who hadn't fought since beating Morales by 3rd-round TKO back in September of 23. This was going to be a finish, I thought, one way or the other. And it is by Arlovsky, 4th-round TKO, doctor stoppage at the end of the 4th round. And, Copeland came forward early. He was trying to put it on Arlovsky, who was very cautious, feeling his way out of the 1st round. Copeland, I thought, won that 10-9. By the 2nd round, Arlovsky felt more comfortable. He was coming forward more, landing some good counters by the halfway point of the round, doing some stiff jabs that were backing Copeland up, in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. And they even had Copeland checked out because he had some nasty cuts around both the top and bottom of his right eye, even off to the bridge of the nose. Had him checked out by the doctor. They let it continue. And then the fourth round just keeps getting peppered. His face is full of blood as the round ends, and the doctor just comes over, takes one look at him in the stool and says, no more. And that is the end of it. Arlovsky gets his first win in the BKFC by doctor stoppage over Copeland. And you know what? There's a guy in the BKFC Arlovsky has some history with, and they met up in the middle of the ring after the fight.
You better be really careful what you wish for, because if you fight me like that, I'm going to end your career.
Actually, it makes sense. I need one more tune-up fight to feel my... And be honest, it will be a pleasure to dance with third time in the FC for the title, my brother. You beast, you tall, but you know that mean how you try to look. You don't scare me, my mother.
Final word, Ben.
Let's do it!
Could this be it? Ben Rothwell, Arlovsky 3 for the BKFC.
Now, of course, Arlovsky's beat Ben Rothwell twice in the UFC, so we'll see if this third one comes to fruition. First, Rothwell has to go fight for that super heavyweight belt that they're creating over there in Australia on that card. And Arlovsky, you heard him say he wants one more tune-up fight at least before he fights him, get his, his legs under him a little bit more in the BKFC and get used to him more before he fights for that title. We'll see if we get that towards the end of this year or maybe the start of next year. You also had debuters from former UFC fighters Jessica Ai and Maria Agapova, the women's flyweight division. Ai, the 38-year-old, fought Bellator and the UFC, 15 and 11. Agapova, 28-year-old from Kazakhstan who resides and trains in the U.S. now, 10 and 5. Half of her wins by submission. Also a former UFC fighter. Fought a few boxing matches before this, and it was Ai all the way. She beats Agapova. I thought that she would be the more aggressive fighter, obviously from the submissions that Agapova had before. And Ai gets a unanimous decision, 49-45 on two cards, 50-44 on one. I agree with the 50-44. I thought she beat her up throughout the fight. Agapova was always on the back foot. Was always just trying to use that jab to keep her opponent away. In the fifth round, she ends up going down, as you saw her there, very upset the ref. She thought it was a slip. It was clearly a right hand. Maybe she had her feet kind of get tripped over herself as she gets punched, but a right hand stumbles her. She goes down, and that makes it a 10-8 round in the fifth for Ai. The most action we probably saw throughout the fight. And she takes that 50-44 and now goes to 1-0 in the BKFC. Agapova now 0-1. Ai says it's day one. She'll get better. It's just a start. But they talked to the Misfit for Rhea, during the fight. She said, no matter which one wins, they're just going to be a snack for her. She's not worried about either of them. We'll see if that's the next chance for Ai or if she has to take another fight herself. You also, as we we'll talk about with Anthony Garrett, heavyweight him against Hayes Wilson. Another first-round finish for him. Not as quick, not 12 or 16 or 20 seconds. He beats him in 1:36. We thought he'd get the KO, and he does. It was actually Wilson who clipped him first. He gets a good shot there early on against Garrett, 40 seconds in with a right hook that drops him. He gets back up, goes on the offensive again, ends up dropping him later on. And then a second time, Wilson goes down again on the knees and decides, time's done. Don't want to fight anymore. That's it. Had enough. And on that one, as you see, Garrett even backing up. He wasn't coming forward. He wasn't in great position. That just shows the power the guy has. Even when he's backing up, he can clip you well enough to drop you. Garrett now 3-0 the BKFC. Wilson 0-1 the BKFC. Garrett talks about being his house after the fight. He also had a great debut at heavyweight from Kenzie Morrison versus Alex Davis. Davis, the former glove boxer, had some big fights against some big names in that, like Hayden Brown, September 24. Morrison, the 34-year-old from Oklahoma, son of Tommy Morrison, former glove boxer himself with a 22-1-2 record. Lots of KOs and TKOs, so we thought he'd carry that over, and he does. Beats Davis by first-round TKO 1:03 seconds in. Davis tried to get on Morrison early, but it just wasn't enough, and Morrison, got his feet under him, got comfortable, and just really jabbed him, some really nasty, stiff jabs. Ends up doing some big damage on Davis, and he gets dropped late in that round, doesn't even want to try to get him up, just sits on his butt and waits till the ref calls it off. Morrison 1-0. Wilson now 1-2 in the BKFC. And he also had a big upset. De Leon beats Ruben Warren by third round TKO. I thought he was controlling that fight throughout. A great job by him. A little bit surprised. Warren had some chances here or there, but never really got himself fully going. And De Leon goes to 1-0 in the BKFC. Warren now 2-2. Warren thought he got a knockdown the third. The ref said, no, it's a slip. He said, forget this. I'm out. Very weird ending for Ruben Warren. And one of the big fights there on that card in Texas.
As we know, it's just we enter every year and it's, is this the Ravens' time? Is this Lamar Jackson's turn? Can they get past the Chiefs and all of these other, stalwarts of the AFC? But it's always really about Kansas City when we're talking Baltimore.
This potentially, Adam, as I send it back to you, potentially is a game changer in that you get a very talented quarter at a discount price.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Oklahoma City now becomes one of 4 NBA teams ever, one of 3 NBA champs ever to win at least 84 total regular season and postseason games.
It's just the beginning, Ben, and you just look at a team with, these guys at such a young age, and, Chet's got a team option, Ismail Dieng has a team option, Jalen Williams team option, Keyshawn Wallace team option. Hey, they're all coming back.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We are seeing unbelievable temperature surges over the past couple days. So one day I ask you this question to let the people know, how do we account for that in our handicapping? 2 good pitchers on the mound, but you look at a place like Wrigley Field, let's just say, 20-mile-an-hour winds blowing out, 90-plus degree temperatures. Is it almost like you say to yourself, you just have to fade the environment and not worry about the pitchers, because if we're hitting fly balls, they're going yard?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
It was the first time, I think, in Dodgers history that the ballpark was full in the first inning. Everybody was there to see Shohei Ohtani throw his first pitch as a Dodger, and I had mixed emotions about this for a few reasons. Number one, it was a reminder of, wow, this is so crazy, right? You're watching him hit 98, 99, even 100 on the radar gun going, this guy's not human. Nobody should be able to be this good of a hitter and this good of a pitcher.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. That was a great card we saw in Texas, as we just talked about. Great debut for the BKFC in the Lone Star State. One of the guys who made a big name for himself, as he does every time he steps in there with a big performance, is, of course, Anthony Garrett, BKFC heavyweight. You can follow him, Anthony the Warrior of Christ, on Instagram. Getting in there, another first-round finish. Took a little longer this time. I guess he got a little bored for those quick finishes. Had to get his money's worth this time. But Anthony beats Hayes Wilson, first-round TKO. And now we bring him on. Anthony, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your time. Looking pretty good after, for a guy who just got in a heavyweight fight, especially, you got the knockdown on yourself there. So you'd think there'd be a little bit more damage, but still got those modeling looks going. So you can do a shoot this weekend if you need to. With the fight against Wilson, I know you guys had history before this one. You had fought in pro kickboxing before you actually matched up in the BKFC past weekend. What was that? How did that go for you? Do you think that helped you in this battle with them, or do you think completely different disciplines, didn't matter, just same guy but different fight?
Yeah, we fought 3 years ago on XFN in Oklahoma, and we had 10-ounce gloves on, so we didn't really throw a single kick in that fight. We literally just boxed and dirty boxed each other. What you guys saw Saturday night, we just did that for 2 rounds, and I split his forehead open, and the doctors called it a medical TKO stoppage. He was a little dizzy and wobbled and bleeding all down his face and just couldn't see and couldn't really defend himself, so they stopped it. But I had nothing but respect for him, and this isn't a knock on him. It's just a confident in myself. I knew his power, and I knew how hard he hit, and I knew I could take it. So I kind of just bit down on my mouthpiece and took the risk to get what I needed in this sport, was a worthy battle-tested opponent, which was him. And I knew he could bring the fight to me, and I could get that battle test that I needed. And I think, as you guys saw, he dropped me a little bit. I popped right up, and then I dropped him twice and finished him. So I'm game ready now for sure.
Yeah, you talk about that, putting a test on yourself and fighting in a phone booth there, the dirty boxing. There's a lot of that, obviously, as we saw in the highlights. It seemed like Chris Lights Out Lytle was kind of perplexed. He said, he's got the reach. Why is he getting inside? But that was the game plan for you? Was it just about testing yourself because you knew that he couldn't knock you out? Obviously, he knocked you down, but couldn't finish you. Was that, really wanting to put yourself to the test? Or is it just that's the way it happened as the fight went on, pretty early?
I had it in my head the whole time. I'd actually told my girlfriend that I wanted to do that just for me. But obviously, her being, she loves me to death, she didn't want me to do it. So I had both in my head to either stay long or fight in a phone booth. And when he dropped me, I just said, F this. And I just bit down and said, I'm going to beat you at your own game. And, you know, battle tested. It happened and 100% needed it. I watched it back just a little bit ago and heard what Chris Lytle said. Yes, of course I can use my reach, but there's going to be incidences in all fights in the future where they're going to try to get on the inside and clinch and make it dirty. And I got to get used to that. And unless I'm going to go spar someone with bare fists, the only way to get used to it is what you guys saw. So, lucky that it worked in my favor, and you know I loved every moment of it, and I can't wait to do it again.
And you know you're in that heavyweight division, so eventually you're not going to be the biggest guy, longest guy. Always there are some pretty big guys in there. We saw Rothwell there on Saturday, of course, the title holder. You know, a guy like Arlovsky. There are some tall guys like you, Perdomo as well, got some reach. So definitely good practice there for you for down the line, hopefully against some of these top level opponents as you continue on your BKFC career. But you talked about getting that knockdown you at the start of it. What was going through your head? Was there any frustration, any second guessing to doing that? Or it's like, all right, whatever, you know, it happened. My turn now.
Yeah. He clipped me decently well. I mean, I felt it. I saw it. It was kind of a stumble. As you saw, I fell towards him to a knee and caught myself. And I even hit the mat. I was so mad at myself. But yeah, in that moment, I just said, it is what it is. And I'm going to give it hell. And I told myself, I remember saying in my head, it's not happening, not here, not now. And I'm going to knock him out. Like I said, you know, in my head, I'm like, it's game time, put up or shut up. And that's what that's what I was saying. I did is this bit down and just swung. I didn't care about what was going to happen at that moment. But I did tell myself when I knocked him down the first time, I said, I got to keep a little bit more range, because if I clip him again, he's going to go out. I saw him hurt and I knew he didn't want any more. So as you see, I step back a little bit and I start stepping back, counter punching and throwing all power, and I clipped him and put him out. So let's say I broke off my game plan, but I went back to the game plan, if that makes sense.
I can see that, because you know that second knockdown, I could see you're kind of moving backwards, kind of more on your heels.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't coming up towards him. You were going back and still had the power to clip him and put him down and make him decide that was it. Does that just obviously shows how much power you have? That you don't have to be in the pocket, perfect position, perfect way of throwing the punch, body movement, all that. You just have to land, and it's going to put a guy out.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Well, of course, it was a great fight for you again. As we said, probably 5-6 times longer than the other ones. We had like 12 and 16 seconds, but you definitely show some. You're not getting paid by the minute, but you still get the job done here again in the BKFC. That's 3 great wins, 3 finishes for you now. Where do you feel you should stand in this heavyweight division? We mentioned some of the guys that are involved, whether they be the top guys like Rothwell and Perdomo, or guys like Arlovsky who's just joining. Do you think that with these wins, you should be in that top 5, that they should give you the respect and start putting you as one of these best guys in that division, and start talking about you for a title shot soon if you continue on this path?
Yeah, I 100% think so. I found out Sunday morning that I'm ranked 17th in the world and 6th in America on the boxing record online. So I would hope and pray that BKF sees that and notices that and puts me in at least the top 5. Or if they don't think I deserve it, let me fight one of those top 5 guys so that I can show them that I mean business and I'm here to stay and play for a long time. So it's whatever they want, whatever they think is best. I really do like BKFC. They're the best organization I've ever fought for, and I'm not just saying that. They have treated me really well and very respectful. So it's whatever they think is best. I'll stick to it and keep slinging the fist hard.
Well, you talked about your girlfriend thinking you were crazy for wanting to bite down and just go brawl. We could go with that, given some of the posts. You're talking about the addiction of the BKFC and the feeling, how everything else kind of just after you get out of that squared circle, everything else just like, whatever. And about the gladiator comparisons to the ancient days. But we know you're obviously here to stay because you love it, and we love watching you fight. Anthony Garrett, thank you so much for joining us. Another great performance. Looking forward to your next fight with the BKFC.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
Rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of thoughts.
18.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to the Combat Sports Report. Thanks so much to Anthony Garrett for joining us, talking to us about his great win down in Texas this past weekend. Also, thanks to Fabian Edwards for talking to us before his semifinal fight for the PFL coming up tonight. Make sure you check out that card on ESPN late night, or at least tape it so you can check it out later. Shoot some great fights, 3 rounds of semifinals, and a showcase fight as well. Lots of great action. Make sure you're partaking of that. Something else you got to partake of course, the BKFC this weekend. Over there in Birmingham, BKFC 77 going to be happening tomorrow, June 28th, 2 o'clock Eastern time, of course, with the time change of it being over there in the UK. So you can watch it mid-afternoon, get some good fights going there. Or, you know, if it's just too busy, going barbecuing, pool, whatever, make sure you check it out later on the BKFC app. It's going to be headlined by a UK welterweight title fight between Connor Tierney and Danny Christie. Christie, the 40-year-old from the UK, of course, former BKFC UK light heavyweight champ, 5-2 in his BKFC career. Both his losses to guys from Shift Combat Sports, of course, that is Dave Mundell and Jared Warren. So if you're not from that camp, you have had a trouble beating this guy, and he continues to see if he can continue that streak after now going against a local guy, local to him, a guy he probably knows well, in Connor Tierney. Of course, this, as we said, welterweight, so after he decided to give up that belt light heavyweight, Christie has dropped down here to welterweight. Let's see what he can do here against Connor Tierney. He's had a couple fights here. Now he's going to fight the 30-year-old from the UK, 8-2 in the BKFC. His last fight was against Johnny Graham, where he beat him by unanimous decision last August. So had a long layoff before that fight, where he talked about, you know, retooling himself and getting himself back into a better fighting shape and, you know, better mental space. Now it's been almost a year since we've seen him again. What has he been up to? You know, how good has he been? What has he worked on and gotten better at since then? If I'm looking at this one, I mean, it's hard for me to pick against either of these guys. They're both very good. They've both shown a lot of great things in the BKFC, but I got to lean towards Christie, even though he's about a decade older. You know, a guy who weighed that much and had that much success against tougher, bigger, stronger guys. Now he's been dropping down, and we saw, you know, even though he lost to Dave Mundell, it was a great fight. You know, he showed some grit. He showed how good he is against one of the best pound for pound in the BKFC, if not the best pound for pound. So while Connor Tierney's had some good success against a bigger guy who's going to be stronger on fight night, be able to push him around a little bit, I got to lean with Christie by TKO in that fight to take that UK title. Also at light heavyweight, you have Marley Churcher versus Anthony Holmes. Churcher's 3-3 in bare knuckle fighting, but making his BKFC debut. Going against Holmes, the 40-year-old, the Yorkshire Gladiator, 5-2-1 in his bare knuckle fighting career, 2-2 in the BKFC. It beat Washington by second round TKO in November of 24, but lost back-to-back fourth round TKO losses before that, back in 2023. So coming off a good rebound win. We'll see if he can get back into full form here, but a guy that is always exciting every one of his fights is going to be one that's going to not go the distance. So I don't expect this one to either. I'm going to go with Holmes. Again, the older fighter, probably a little more long in the tooth there, a little more beatings that he's taken over the years. But we've seen how tough he is. I don't know enough about Churchill to be leaning on a guy that's just making his BKFC debut. Obviously, he has some success and some practice in other organizations, but as we know, it's a different animal sometimes when you make it up to the BKFC, even over the UK, with that long history of great bare-knuckle fights. A lightweight, you have another name James Lights Out Lilly versus Fran Suarez. Suarez, the 39-year-old from Spain. Mi Vida Loca, the former glove boxer, now 0-1 in the BKFC after he lost to David Mora by 4th round TKO in October of 24. Going against Lights Out Lilly, the 38-year-old from the UK, also known as the Punching Poet, 8-3-1 in bare-knuckle fighting, 3-3 in the BKFC. Had a meteoric rise, 3 wins in a row, got to fight for the title against, of course, the champion at the time, Luis Palomino. Now has lost 3 after that, after losing to Palomino, then to Naglia by decision in April of 24, and by Maya by first round TKO in Spain in October of 24. So, had fought 2 of the best and taken them the distance, but then now lost to Maya. I don't know if I believe in him right now. I'm sticking with him just because Suarez has not shown us much in the BKFC yet. And obviously Lilly has a lot more experience, but if this was a fight 2-3 years ago, I'd go Lilly in a heartbeat. Now I'm a little more tenuous and thinking he's going to go by decision instead of saying this guy's going to get the finish. You also have a light heavyweight battle between Jamie Cox and Charles Wasserman. Cox BKFC debut for him. Wasserman 1-2 in the BKFC. He won his first fight, then lost the last 2. 3rd round TKO to Hodgson in April 24. 2nd round KO to Holmes in November of 24. So has had some problems with that chin holding up against some of the bigger names over in the UK for the BKFC. Wasserman's going to be 3 inches taller, so he has that height, reach advantage to try to keep his opponent at bay. But you know what? Let's take a chance on this one. Let's go with Cox by TKO to win this fight over there in Birmingham. Should be some great battles. Make sure you check them out on the BKFC app. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks again to Anthony Garrett talking to us about his great win. Thanks for Fabian joining us before he fights in the semifinal for the PFL. Looking forward to that card. Looking forward to talking to you next week, where we'll talk about so much of the stuff going on this summer for the BKFC, the PFL, and Lights Out Extreme Fighting here on SportsGrid.
On June 25th at 7:30 p.m., ditch the guesswork. Ben Stevens, Kevin Walsh, James Young, and Tom Vecchio have your NBA draft betting coverage pick by pick, bet by bet, all night long. We got all the insights and expert analysis, because betting blind isn't a strategy. Coverage starts at 7:30 p.m. on June 25th, only on SportsGrid.
Oklahoma City now becomes one of 4 NBA teams ever, one of 3 NBA champs ever to win at least 84 total regular season and postseason games.
It's just the beginning, Ben, and you just look at a team with, these guys at such a young age, and, Chet's got a team option, Ismail Dieng has a team option, Jalen Williams team option, Keyshawn Wallace team option. Hey, Ben, they're all coming back.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We are seeing unbelievable temperature surges over the past couple days. So I wanted to ask you this question to let the people know, how do we account for that in our handicapping? 2 good pitchers on the mound, but you look at a place like Wrigley Field, let's just say, 20-mile-an-hour winds blowing out, 90-plus degree temperatures. Is it almost like you say to yourself, you just have to fade the environment and not worry about the pitchers, because if we're hitting fly balls, they're going yard?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
As we know, it's just we enter every year and it's, is this the Ravens' time? Is this Lamar Jackson's turn? Can they get past the Chiefs and all of these other, stalwarts of the AFC? But it's always really about Kansas City when we're talking Baltimore.
This potentially, Adam, as I send it back to you, potentially is a game changer in that you get a very talented quarter at a discount price.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.